Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. That's right, we are the nation's longest running talk show on computers and technology. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope all of you are having a great Tuesday out there, as today can only be described as a Gamer Tuesday right here on Computer America. So, on today's show, for those of you who did not check it out at computeramerica.com, we have HyperX, and you can check them out at hyperxgaming.com. But we're going to be talking about a lot of their different products and esports in general, and it's just a great time to be a gamer because it's no longer some weird party trick that you can beat Pac-Man. No, it's becoming more than a hobby. It's for a lot of people, it's actually a profession and a career. So here to talk with us is one of the biggest players in the industry, is HyperX. They are used by many e-athletes out there and used by just the general populace altogether because, they do make great things and they make them at a great price. And, I've even used HyperX headphones myself. I am, again, very happy to have him on. So we are going to be talking to HyperX in just a moment, but a few things I need to mention, including computeramerica.com. That is where you will find everything and anything for today's show, including links to our guests, any videos that we do, any articles that we talk about, any and everything will be included over at computeramerica.com. Just find today's show notes and it'll be right there for you, as well as audio and video and podcast of today's show. Also, be sure to check out the live video stream because, hey, you can watch Computer America and not just listen. And the last thing is the social media contest, which we have a winner, or we had one last week. We'll be choosing another one, and that is from our friends over at Logitech. That's right, we're giving away the M720 Triathlon mouse. It's a really great mouse for controlling multiple devices, all connected via Bluetooth, and, we could be calling your name live on the air here very, very soon. All you have to do is enter. So, okay, now with that said, why don't we just jump into today's interview? And again, we have Mark Takunoff here. He is the PR manager and senior technology manager for HyperX, and very happy to have him on. Mark, how you doing? Welcome onto the program.
Doing real good, Ben. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic because, like I said, I'm actually a pretty big fan of HyperX and what it is you guys do. There's only so many high-profile peripheral manufacturers, and HyperX is definitely one at the forefront. So, for those of our audience who maybe have not heard of HyperX, could you give us a little bit of background of the company, when it was started, and what it is that you guys set out to do?
Sure, no problem. So HyperX is the gaming division of a company called Kingston Technology that's been around for about 30 years now, actually. But we started HyperX about 14 and a half years ago. And it started out doing overclocked memory for people that were doing gaming systems or do-it-yourself type of overclocking applications. And then over time, we added in SSDs, we added in USB devices. And then about three and a half years ago, the two owners, it's a privately owned company by two gentlemen, and they basically said, hey, go ahead and expand beyond the memory business and start doing more things for the gamer community. And so the first things we did was gaming headsets. And then since then, we've added probably 5 or 6 different types of headsets, added keyboards a few months ago, and just recently we added our first gaming mouse along with mouse pads. So essentially, we have all the products that a gamer needs underneath the HyperX umbrella.
Yeah, no, peripherals are something that's, when you talk about, gaming, again, there's esports, which we're going to get into a little bit later, but just general usage of a computer, of course, we are kind of gaming focused here on Gamer Tuesday, but I cringe whenever I sit down at my mother's computer and I take her mouse and it's set down to like 100 DPI and it's tiny and old and the keyboard's just barely good enough. It was a $15 yard sale find. I mean, like, do you think that peripherals for by and large, not just gamers, but for a lot of the computer using population, do you think peripherals are kind of overlooked? I mean, why are companies such as yours needed when you have the the Dells and the HPs of the world out there? Like, do you think it takes a specialized company to do peripherals right?
I think you need to have the right background and the right understanding of how to design and create a new product, for sure. But in general, you asked whether or not people are overlooking the gaming accessories or gaming market. I don't think it's overlooking as much as there's a certain segment of the population, people that are in college, people that are in high school, people that game on a regular basis, that need the features of a gaming product. And for example, for a gaming headset, the thing that differentiates it from a normal headset is the number one thing is there's a microphone attached to it. So you can use chat programs where you can then communicate with the guys you're playing with or have conversations on the side. In general, a lot of the people don't need that microphone, so they're not aware of the gaming headsets. But it is a very popular and required need for people that do game, no matter whether they're doing PC gaming, console,
Right.
or even mobile gaming for that matter. It's pretty much it's a necessity because you want to be able to chat with your friends.
Right. So what sets HyperX apart from other competitors? Because like I said, HyperX really is one of the most kind of out there. You guys do a lot of work in professional gaming, and just let's face it, you do a lot of marketing and you do a lot of good marketing. But there are others in the field. So what kind of sets HyperX apart from some of your competitors?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to answer that question, but I think I want to just answer it from a headset perspective because that's the first accessory product that we brought to market about 3 years ago. So what we actually did at the very beginning is we actually went and gathered a bunch of samples from a bunch of other competitors in the market to see what their headsets looked like, how they sounded, how comfortable they were, and we went and we talked to a number of players. At this point, we have over 35 organizations, which turns into 90 teams worth of people, which is about 450 players worldwide that wear our headsets or use our keyboards or mouse or other products. So we went out to them and said, at the time, what do you need? What is it that makes a headset great, that makes it something valuable to you? The number one thing that everybody said was not necessarily the sound, but it's the comfort level, how it wears on your head, how comfortable it is. Can I wear it for 4 to 6 hours at a time or longer even for that matter, and play comfortably for a long period of time? So comfort was number one that we looked at. Second, but a close second, was the sound quality. Being able to perceive or listen and hear people coming at you from different directions. Being able to hear not only direction but distance. So you're looking for certain quality of how you design the drivers and the ear cups and how it's designed to give you that great effect so you can actually hear people coming towards you. And then probably the third portion of it had to do with certain people like surround sound, certain want that surround effect as they're in game or watching movies, being able to hear everything, again, from a directional perspective. Where is it coming from so I can win versus the other guy?
Yeah,
So those are some of the key things that we looked at the very beginning with headsets.
Right, yeah. I mean, for headsets, it was a night and day experience when the first time it was, I think it was during Call of Duty Black Ops, the first one. I switched from, just having TV audio and switched to having a gaming headset and, with the surround sound. And it's almost cheating when you can hear people, behind you and you can hear direction and you can say, oh, well, that's where he is. And otherwise, if you just have a standard stereo, kind of setup, you really couldn't tell the same kind of thing. So, I mean, what gamers demand of their hardware is certainly different than what the general population also does.
That is very true.
Yeah. It's definitely different than what the general populace also demands of it. But, if we're going to talk about your, the headset right now, The one that you have listed up on your website is the HyperX Cloud Stinger. I mean, just in general, what are some of the key features that maybe you could kind of pique a gamer's interest with? Because I know that I have one friend. He actually purchased. I don't believe it was a Stinger. It was another brand of headsets from you. But he said he has a big head, and yours were some of the only ones that didn't squish his ears. You know, comfort really struck him with headsets that he bought from HyperX. But you know, what are some of the key features that you could like? Are they wired? Are they battery? Are, you know, how good's the microphone? That kind of thing. I mean, anything you can point out about the headsets from HyperX?
Sure, sure. I mean, there's a lot of things you look at. Most of our products, actually all of our products today, are currently wired products. They may be analog that has a plug that can plug into a PC, into a PlayStation 4, or into a mobile device, and you'll be able to listen to it and get that gaming value out of it. There's also a couple other products in the family that have a USB audio controller, or audio dongle they call it, which you can plug into a USB port, which allows you to amplify and do some surround sound and noise cancellation, so it blocks out the sounds inside the room or enhances the microphone sound, so when people are listening to you chat, it adds that extra value. So those are some of the basic things that people look at. There's actually 3 families of headsets within the HyperX family. Stinger, the one that you mentioned, is under $50, and it's designed for the person that needs something durable, something with good sound, something with a great mic that basically has a mute feature when you lift it and it clicks back and actually mutes out automatically. So there's some certain features that people like from that perspective. The Cloud 2, which is our second Cloud series headset in the market, is probably one of the highest runners in the world on the gaming right now. We've sold several million units over the last 3 years of the Cloud 1s and Clouds 2. Again, one of the key features there on the comfort side is what we call it HyperX Signature Memory Foam. There's a particular softness and comfort to the foam and the materials that we use that when you, again, put it on your head, it's very comfortable. You can use it for hours and hours. But when you mentioned the front of yours that had a very large head, if you look at the headsets, there is a way of extending the ear cups and enlarging it for a larger head. So there's a lot of ability to make changes to it to adjust to the person that's wearing it. It makes it very comfortable. And then on the top end is what we call Revolver and Revolver S. And Revolver S is the one that just came out a few months ago. Different design, 2 metal forks across the top, has a nice comfort to it as well. And it has a USB dongle that includes a plug-and-play single button click to turn on Dolby. So if you're watching movies or if you're watching games and you want that 3D effect, it's as simple as pushing a button.
Right. Well, since you and since you actually brought it up, I think we should jump right into the Revolver S, because it is, you know, like you said, you just released it. When was it launched? And you know, you said it kind of fits into your higher end, but obviously there's the Revolver and now the Revolver S. But I mean, how do you think that the Revolver S kind of fits into the market in general?
Okay, from our perspective, I mean, it is our top of the line. It's still under $150 compared to other people's $200 or $250 products, but it sounds equal or better than compared to those other ones. But again, it's that comfort level on your head, so you can wear it for long periods of time. And the microphone is very good for chat applications. But what makes it unique and different from our perspective is that when you listen to it, again, it has that ability to accurately pinpoint where the sound is coming from while you're gaming, and that's very critical. If you're in a match and there's a lot of money on, you know, at stake at the time, the person that turns the corner and sees the first person and hears where they're coming from first wins.
Right.
So you want something that gives you that little edge above and beyond anyone else.
No, yeah, and you can definitely.
And again, it is not wireless. It is a wired product, so it's good for any application basically. And there are people that like wireless headsets. You know, at some point in time in the future, you'll probably see something from us that will be. But the majority of the market wants something that not only sounds good and comfortable, but wireless. Sometimes you have connectivity things that you have to work out. It's like you walk into the kitchen, you get a sandwich or something, you want to continue listening to the gameplay, or you want to be talking to your friends. So those are certain things that are part of the design that has to be considered and part of the specs to make sure it meets our standards before we release anything to the market.
Right, and I'm sure you do much more market research than just what my small circle friends really subscribe to. But I mean, wireless certainly has a place, but at the same time, most of the people I know, they definitely enjoy wired because, let's face it, battery life is a huge issue. I know you were quoting that 4 to 6 hour gameplay session. I'm sure it's not.
Yep.
I'm sure it's not correct to say that over 8 hours has been known to happen on our days off, and I'm sure it's not very healthy. But it's when you go wireless, you have battery limitations, and you simply don't have those with something that is wired. So I know a lot of people that definitely prefer wired over wireless for really all of their peripherals, from mice to keyboard
Sure.
and what have you. But before we move on, I actually wanted to talk about this. Let's see if I get that right here. Advanced USB audio control box with DSP sound card. So this looks a little bit more complex than your average, kind of inline microphone control or headphone control dongle kind of thing. What is this DSP sound card?
Okay, so when you look at or you listen to sound, there's certain things that you want to hear and don't want to hear. By adding this controller with a DSP, a digital signal processor, it allows us to basically tune and filter the sound. So in the case of things you don't want, if it's microphone noise or if it's background noise, there are certain algorithms or certain ways of removing all that background noise cancellation. But there's also noise enhancement or sound enhancement, where you want to be able to pick up the bass sound of the rumble of a tank as it goes by, or you want to hear directionality of an airplane flying across from left to right or right to left because you want to know where it's coming from. Using a device like this with a DSP gives you that little bit of extra performance or edge as far as what the sound is coming from and what it sounds like. So it actually enhances the sound that you're listening to.
Makes perfect sense. And then I see that the another big difference is, of course, the speakers. I mean, you went from stereo to virtual Dolby 7.1 surround. So, I assume that you've used these products before. How are they? Is this something that you'd wear for strictly gaming, or does it make movies better? I mean, how do these things sound?
Okay, so when we designed them, we wanted to make sure they were usable on anything, basically. It didn't have to be a gaming-only product. So when you listen to our drivers or our headsets, the sound quality or the frequency of the sound, the lows, the mids, the highs, are very crisp and accurate. So if you're gaming, you want to be picking up certain type of elements of sound, and you're able to do that by changing some settings on the dongle. But if you want to watch a movie, you still want to be able to hear things in a particular way. With a theater effect, you turn on the Dolby button. If you don't want a theater surround sound effect, then you just turn it off and you may use one of the other options that are available on the dongle. And then music, everybody has their own preference. A lot of people want a little extra bass, a little more treble. We have settings for that, or we have it set to a neutral setting, so basically it plays back at the settings that the person recorded it in. So you have a lot of options with our headsets that allow you to do any of the above. It's not just the gaming headset. It's a cross-platform, cross-uses type of a headset.
Right.
So if you've tried them yourself, you'd probably find that they're very good across anything that you're using them for.
Right. Oh, and
what do you think? Have you tried? Which ones have you tried so far? Which ones have you worn? The Stinger or?
Of the headsets, I have only worn the Cloud. I believe you called it the Cloud 2. I have tried that one on. My friend bought the Cloud Stinger, which I kind of mentioned that he very much enjoyed, but I have not had a chance to try the new ones out. I was actually just about to ask you if someone wanted to go out and try these. I'm assuming places like Best Buy have them as well, or
yes.
Where can they find these headsets?
Well, the two larger places would be Best Buy or GameStop. Those are the two retail type places that you would find it, and you would be able to try them out. Again, there are different price points. If you look at Stinger, under $50 would be maybe the first time headset a person buys. And then the next headset would probably be a Cloud 2 type of a headset where you want a little more comfort, a little more sound, a little more value to what you're listening to. And then probably your second or third headset or a gift that you get from somebody for graduation, which is coming up pretty soon, or Christmas time, whatever it might be, and they're looking at a $150 gift. The Revolver S is perfect for that because it's that next level up as far as sound and comfort and quality. They all have a sound signature that are very similar, but a little better the further up you go up the product line.
Right. No, only makes sense. So, and again, I think we covered the headsets pretty well, but like you've mentioned, you know, HyperX is not just a headphone manufacturer. They have branched out into other peripherals, and we have here that you've recently launched your first gaming mouse. You know, welcome to the Rat Pack. Welcome to the Rat Pack, because there are a lot of gaming mice companies out there. So let's talk about your design and how you tried to make the best gaming mouse that you possibly can.
Okay, so there's a couple ways of doing that. One is, do you want to have the fastest in the world with features that people really are not fast enough even to use? Or do you go, okay, we want to have the best gaming mouse that any major pro player in the world can use? And what we did is we followed that second row. And what we did was we added our DPI settings, or the number of dots per inch when you move the mouse. Ours is set to 3200 DPI at the top end. We have 4 profiles, 400, 8, 1600, and 32. The normal person that plays professional games doesn't set their mouse any higher than like 1850 DPI. Right. So what we said, okay, this is what a person wants, this is what they need. So we targeted that market for FPS, CSGO type players that need those type of features. So, and we went with a right-handed mouse because we know that's the majority of the market. People that are right-handed, it's the majority of us. And very simple, I would call it simple features because there's no software required to change settings or to change the colors. It's plug it in and it works. And there's 4 settings for anybody that typically games. Up to 3200, it's perfect for that person.
And I know that others on the market, they have you download an application and they're online drivers, and it's very tiresome.
Yes.
Yours is just plug and play. You know, nothing you have to download or update.
Plug and play, and actually, so there's kind of a backstory to this one. Actually, we have a few professional gamers that have come in. Actually, if you were to come into our office, you would find in our facility in the HyperX building, we have a 5-on-5 gaming room that is dedicated to just playing games. There's a PC gaming room, and then there's a console gaming room for people to come and play and try out our products. We had a few professionals actually came in, and in the design process for the mouse, we said, try this out. What do you think? Maybe you have any suggestions? We actually took their advice, sent it back to the designers, and they actually made some changes to the mouse to fit the needs of that particular professional gamer. So it's kind of a nice ability to have people that can tell you what they really need versus just build it, send it out to the market, and hope that they like it. It's always good to get that feedback, especially if it's a professional gamer.
Right. Yeah. And of course there are professional gamers for many different kinds of games. I mean, MOBAs, first-person shooters, real-time strategy, blah blah blah. You know, and they're all really going to want something different. So, but it sounds like you really focused on kind of the, you know, CSGO first-person shooter kind of thing, because they really do rely on their mouse. I mean, their mouse is essentially their trigger finger, and they're aiming. So, sounds like you really went for that.
We did, and it made a lot of sense for us because, like I mentioned before, we have a lot of gaming teams in the world that actually use our products on a regular basis. So most of them do play FPS, CSGO type of games. So that was the first market that we wanted to support was with that community. And we do have a lot of different teams that we sponsor, and then there's League of Legends, CSGO, Hearthstone, Vainglory, which is a mobile application, Overwatch. I mean, there's a lot of different applications that the teams play. But our initial focus, since we're still relatively new in this market, is focus on FPS, focus on that market, because not only is the mouse for FPS, but also we came out with the keyboard. The first keyboard is called Alloy FPS. And again, it was designed for an FPS player. It's a very compact form factor, so when they play, they typically take the keyboard and slide it to the left and turn it sideways to get it out of the way so you have more room to move the mouse.
Right.
And that was targeting, again, FPS players, so the mouse follows that same category of gaming.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, and I will say that Computer America just recently started their Twitch stream. It is nowhere near where it needs to be, but I just started playing Overwatch, and I am a strong silver, and I've put maybe 40 hours in the past week. It's my first time really trying to go, competitively in a first-person shooter, and I must say that I'm lucky enough that I have, some decent peripherals, but I can tell you that the mouse really does make a difference for a lot of people. So great that you had professionals in there, and really, if you are still using, nothing wrong with Logitech, but I know Logitech is a lot of people's first time mice, then definitely trying something different in the gaming category. It really is night and day when you're using those applications. Not so much for Hearthstone, but it is what it is. So, and you also mentioned there, so we have the Pulsefire FPS, but you also mentioned there the Alloy. If you want to talk about that real quick, which was your keyboard. So, I mean, obviously it seems like you designed something, try it out with gamers, market research, and then go back and improve it based on that feedback. That seems to be your kind of go-to strategy for developing this technology. How did the development for the keyboard go? Like, was it, perfect right off the bat, or, has it improved?
Well, okay, so the first product was the Alloy FPS that we did announce it. We went through some design iterations internally, but I think the design team had a better idea what they were looking for at the time, because when you look at keyboards in the United States of the world, there's two basic formats, 104 or 105 key layouts, basically. So you don't have to worry about the ergonomics of the hand, whether it's a small, medium, or large, where to place the buttons, where to place the side buttons. It's a little bit less complicated, or a little less personal in designing a keyboard versus a mouse. So that design, when right out of the box, was pretty successful, and I think the key to that is a couple of them. One was Alloy. We do have some metal characteristics. The top plate is metal, so it's a very firm and durable design. But also one of probably the most important things we did is we aligned ourselves with Cherry, which is the big German switch manufacturer for keyboard switches.
Yeah.
And we made sure that we used Cherry MX keys on all three of our first Alloy FPS keyboards. So the first ones were the blue keys, which are very high tactile, very clicky sounding keys. And then a few months after that, we added in the browns, which are kind of in the middle, and then the red switches, which are linear, so a little bit quieter as far as the touch when you're playing. And so it's been a very interesting experience to see that the people really love the fact that they were using Cherry switches, and there's a really strong and durable design. Having a small form factor, it's easy to drop into your backpack and take it from place to place, to a friend's house or to a tournament or to a show, and just plug it in and go again. Again, same thing. I guess there is a bit of a theme here. Anything we've done so far is plug it in, it works, it has specific good profiles or features that work right out of the box.
Yeah, no,
that's not saying that we won't do that in the future. Maybe in the future we'll be doing things that are a little more complicated, that require software or a little more feature sets. I would say not maybe, but we will. Mm-hmm. But to start with, we wanted to take care of the basics, make sure it works and it meets the needs of everybody. Same with the headset, same thing.
Right. I will say that, just talking to our audience and just, looking around the internet, that other companies, they have online drivers and things like that, and it's a pain point more than it is a feature. So the only thing I can do is offer you that advice. But hey, and actually, Mark, if you don't mind staying over for a few minutes, then we can get into the esports on the other side of the break.
Sure.
We're running out of time. Perfect. So
sure, that'd be great.
Yep. And so everyone out there, we are just about Yep, just about in the middle of this interview with Mark Takunoff. He is the PR manager and the senior technology manager for HyperX, and we'll be right back with more, of course, with more of this interview, and we're going to get into esports, their role, and, it's always a fun conversation to have about esports. So, stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Computer America, more HyperX, and more show just after this. Stay tuned.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour, and we are continuing on with Mark Takunoff. He is the PR manager and senior technology manager for HyperX. And we're just wrapping up with their keyboard, the HyperX Alloy FPS. And I will say, happy that you went with Cherry. We just had them on the show about 6 months ago, and they went through some kind of change internally, but they're still making probably the best switches on the market. And glad that you are definitely utilizing those. So great. And that is not all the peripherals, because of course you have things like mouse pads. And by the way, just a quick note, actually, I'll let you take this, Mark, but what is the difference between a gamer's needs for a mouse pad and general consumers? Because I feel that general consumers could take a lesson from what you can only call a welcome mat on your table. So, what is the story with your mouse pads?
That's actually an interesting question. Normally you would think of mouse pads as a mouse pad, but and I thought the same thing before we got into this market. But the more we talked with the gamers, we found that there's actually two things that they like or that they need or want, and one is either speed or accuracy. So if they are trying to move quickly to get across a map to get it from point A to point B, they need the speed characteristics of a mouse pad, which is very smooth, very easy to move your mouse across. So there's that need on the speed side. Accuracy, not quite as smooth, not rough, but a little more, I would say, just feel to the mouse pads as you move the mouse across it. And that's typically used when you're aiming for accuracy and you're trying to pinpoint a particular target before you start clicking the mouse. You use the accuracy version of it. So speed and accuracy are the two versions that are typically called out in mouse pads. It's surprising that there is so much accuracy to it, but I found some of the gamers can tell the slight differences from one material to the next. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, they definitely can. And and one thing I was kind of alluding to with that is the size, because I know a lot of people, when they think mouse pads, they think 6" by 6", and that's it. But I see here that you also offer rather large ones, not just small 6" by 6s.
Right. Yeah. Our new product line, we actually have 4 different sizes, and the extra large, some people have actually called it a yoga mat. It's such a large mouse pad. So, I mean, you really need a large table, but it's great if you need that amount of space. Typically, the pros like the larger mouse pads, again, to get better accuracy. But, the typical user at home probably uses a medium or a large. But if you haven't tried one out, we need to send one over to you. You can roll it across your entire table and let me know what you think of it.
I would certainly like that. I'm currently using one, but it's large, but not too large, and I would definitely enjoy that. We'll talk after the show and set that up. And hey, everyone, sounds like we might have some articles coming your way. But But yeah, so and of course because you are a division of Kingston, Kingston is well known for their memory, like you mentioned, and you also have here SSDs as well. So why don't you just go lately, and then we'll move on to esports. But your other product categories here are USB drives and SSDs. Why, of course, peripherals are one thing, but now you're getting into the internals of a gaming computer. What does HyperX do for SSDs?
So actually, we started out on the memory side and then moved into the accessories later. So the memory business, of course, I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, for people that did overclocking or wanted more performance out of the system. So they would buy an Intel or AMD processor, and they would basically tune it as fast as possible. They would take the same thing with the graphics card, whether it's NVIDIA or AMD or whatever brand it might be. ATI used to be, now AMD. And again, overclock it to get more performance out of the system. They did the same thing with memory. On the SSD side of the business, at the beginning, everybody had hard drives. You had issues with if you dropped it or if you shook the machine just slightly, that the heads would come crashing into the cylinders and the blocks, and things would basically stop working. So you would have the SSD that gives you the ability to have more durability in that case because it's solid state. It's not a spinning disk. And so there's different levels of performance there as well. It's speed as far as I/O performance, read writes, things of that nature that give you the better performance. If you had a notebook computer or a notebook and you had an old hard drive and pulled it out and replaced it with one of today's SSDs, day and night you can see the difference in how quickly things will boot quicker. If you're playing a game and how it starts loading maps is much, much faster because the I/O speeds are so much higher, better performance.
Right.
And then USB drives, same thing. There's a huge range of performance depending on something real basic to something that's over, I don't really know the current specs are, and I think it's 500 megabytes per second is pretty typical for a USB 3 type application. So it's all performance driven. So that's why HyperX also sells performance SSDs and USB drives.
Right, yeah, and recently we mentioned on the show before that I recently redid my computer. HyperX, I will admit, was certainly in the running, but I unfortunately had to kind of pass you guys over until you get your M.2 up in line. So SSDs are great. I cannot recommend them if you are currently using a traditional hard drive. SSDs will be amazing for you, but just kind of Computer America to HyperX. Are you working on an M.2? In the near/distant future?
There are new designs that are coming out in the next few months. I think what you'll find is, in general, the market it's a supply-driven economy right now as far as SSDs go. There's a limit on the number of chips available in the market.
Right.
So as far as getting new designs out, it'll be a little bit of time before we go out and do that. But we do have some M.2 designs.
Okay. Yep. That's just what I wanted to hear. So, all right. And again, I kind of apologize for keeping you over, but I definitely wanted to get to this next topic, and that is esports. Now, I'm a very, very big avid watcher of Twitch. They have a lot of tournaments on there hosted for your favorites, CS:GO, Overwatch, League of Legends, what have you. They have a lot of tournaments on there, Dota, but esports as kind of a thing, Blizzard and Activision are trying to pump a lot of money into it. You have companies such as yourself and others who are, buying teams or sponsoring teams to compete on not just a national but an international stage. What is esports? I guess for anyone out there who maybe not be too familiar with the idea of selling out Madison Square Garden for a gaming championship. And what is HyperX's role in kind of facilitating, the growth of esports?
Sure. Actually, we got involved with esports before it was even called esports. Probably our first event that we went to was in Shanghai, China, in 2004, which was, I think, don't remember the game right now, but it was something that we did along with some other companies. This is way early in the cycle of esports, but in the last 10 years, we've been sponsoring a number of teams. SK Gaming and Team EG, or Evil Geniuses, were two of the first teams that we sponsored in this market because we saw the value of being closer to our gaming community. And over time, over the last 10 years, we've grown to the point where each of our regions that work with teams has a number of teams in their own particular regions. Total, I think I mentioned earlier, is about 35 teams right now that we work with, or pardon me, 35 organizations.
Right.
And each org then has multiple teams underneath it, and there's about 90 teams that are under that umbrella of 35 orgs, and about 450 people, 450 players that are on these teams that go out and play at tournaments on a regular basis, any place in the world, basically. Just recently, probably a lesser known title, but there's something called Rocket League, which is relatively new.
Yeah.
Cars kicking a soccer ball. There was the championships were in Los Angeles this weekend at the Wiltern Theater, and we were there working and helping Twitch with a Twitch stream feed on that one. So there's a variety of games and tournaments out there that people play and watch. It's probably, I don't know the exact numbers, but I've been told that the number of people that watch esports on weekends now is larger than either NBA or NFL football, NBA basketball or NFL football, because of the large number of people that either play or watch either on mobile or on console or PS or PCs.
You know, and
it's a very, very big market.
And this is one of my favorite things about the market is that it's starting, it started back in the 90s, StarCraft, and, really grew out of South Korea. And then the idea of competing professionally with video games. I mean, CSGO, I'm sure really did its number by being such a staple for the first-person shooter. And then, of course, you had things like League of Legends, of course, and Halo and MLG and many other kind of competitions and organizations that help grow it. But now it's one thing to have a grassroots movement and have, gamers get together, play for millions of dollars in prize pools, but it's another for established organizations. And, before the show, we mentioned the NBA, but ESPN has their own division for esports, and ESPN, I think it's like 1, 2, or 3, also play, on cable television, play some of the championship games from esports on cable TV, just like they do NBA, NFL, what have you. I mean, it's starting to really get legitimized, don't you think?
Oh yeah, and in fact, Turner Broadcasting on TBS on Friday nights, they broadcast the esports now every Friday night, and right now they're doing Street Fighter, and I think CS:GO is going to be coming in September, and we're involved with that also. So it's growing and expanding, and there's a couple words that they now use. They call endemics or non-endemics, which basically means you're in the industry or community, or you're coming from the outside. Mm-hmm. So we would be considered one of those endemic brands that has been with it for a long time. We are in the community. We sponsor games, tournaments, events. We are part of the community. The thing that's causing the expansion or the money that's being brought into the esports now is brought in by what they call the non-endemics, which would be the Visa, credit cards, Coca-Cola, Taco Bell, Audi, Domino's, Buffalo Wild Wings, people like that who, if you watched a basketball game or NFL or anything else, baseball, you'll have the same type of advertising. They're now taking that and they're bringing it into esports. So there's definitely a transition from being, like you called it, grassroots or just internal, endemic to this market versus expanding it and making it mass market consumer type, like it's all the other professional sports. The other thing you're seeing now is you're seeing NBA teams buy esports teams.
Yeah.
And in that process, you're beginning to see a lot more closeness between those two, using the same arenas, using the same management skills and all the concessionaires, et cetera, that go with it. So it's a very good relationship between professional, in this case, NBA. I think there's something called 2K, NBA 2K, which is, there's a new league that's being considered next year where a number of people or a number of NBA teams are looking into getting involved with that, along with their esports teams. So it's growing. It's growing because you have these outsiders now coming in, and it's great. It's great to see it.
It's growing, and it's growing differently in a lot of different regions. I know that in Europe, they have soccer, football, whichever is your flavor. But soccer organizations are well known for sponsoring and owning their own organizations for esports as well. I don't know if they just had so much money flowing out of their ears, they said, why not? But in Europe they have that. China and South Korea, they've long been involved in sponsoring esports. I mean, one of the biggest in League of Legends is SKT, which is South Korea Telecom, which is a phone company. That'd be like, AT&T being one of the team owners here in the US. I mean, there's a lot of organizations that are, coming in, like you said, that are not traditionally part of it, but they see it as, and maybe you could speak to us a little bit, but what are the demographics looking like for esports? Because it's one thing to say, oh, it's all those high school and college, college white males out there, but from my experience, the demographic definitely skews younger, but like a lot of people in the younger generations, white, black, female, male, what have you, like it's the demographics are really growing, aren't they?
Well, so if you look at the I guess you would consider the passionate gamer, the guy that plays on weekends with his friends in the evenings, that he plays on PC and console, that age group is around 13 to 34-year-olds, maybe 85-90% male, and that's the current set of the market that we're part of, the community that we're part of, and it's moving in the other direction to the casual gamer side with the Visas, the Coca-Colas, the Buffalo Wild Wings coming in.
Right.
And that's a wider age group. That's 18 to 40-year-olds typically, and maybe 80% male with PC, console, and mobile applications. So when you expand it into the casual gamer segment, the age goes up, and that's when you have that mass appeal for these other brands to come in and participate and sell you their services.
Makes perfect sense. So, all right, and so that's how you're involved with esports. Obviously, you supply, I'm sure, a lot of gear, a lot of hardware to these players, as well as sponsoring teams. And always have to applaud companies that do go out, because this is such a young field. It's only, like you said, maybe a decade or two old. If you go all the way back to maybe StarCraft, Brood War, it's only maybe 2 decades old, but it's definitely exploding in a good way. So glad that you're doing it. So getting back to HyperX Gaming and your products, anything on the horizon that we should be looking out for in the next couple months?
I think we've talked about some of our first products, and that we're basically looking at giving the gaming community the right products. So we've gone out and we have our foot forward into the right things right now. We're doing good headsets, keyboards, mouse pads, etc. The plan in the future is to continue doing what we're doing, and continue adding more products to the product lines depending on what people need. There are keyboard features that people want or need that are different than our original Alloy FPS. So we're going to be looking at doing some new designs and announcing some more products in the future, short-term future, not too far away, along with new mouse products, mouse pads, and always more headsets. So anything that a gamer needs, that's the products that we will be presenting to the market and offering to the customers and the community, not only to use personally at home, but also, like we talked about a few times now, there is this large demand now for the entertainment value of esports, and so we'll continue sponsoring and participating in that community more and more, because that's where people want to see the value. And if you want to see value, then you need to have the best products there, and that's what HyperX does.
There you go. Very well said. And of course, looking forward to that. And when you do come out with some new products, please feel free to come back onto Computer America. Love to have you back on and talk about this. This was, the conversation as a whole. One last time, I want to apologize for keeping you over, but at the same time, I don't want to apologize, because this was a lot of fun. And for everyone out there, hyperxgaming.com, you can check it out. We have a link in the show notes here at Computer America. And one last time, Mr. Mark Takunoff, thank you so much for coming on. This was, once again, a lot of fun.
Not a problem. We'll do it again.
Absolutely. So, all right, have a great day. And actually, I'll ask you if people want to find out more. I just sent them to your website. That all sound right? HyperXGaming.com.
That would be perfect. HyperXGaming.com is a perfect place to go. And then, of course, you have Facebook and all the other social media avenues with just /HyperX, and you'll find us there.
Absolutely. All right, yeah, do that as well. So, okay. And Mark, have a great day, and thank you so much.
All right, Ben. Thank you again. We'll talk to you again.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, and there he goes. One last time. Mark Takunoff, he is the PR manager and senior technology manager for HyperX. HyperX Gaming, they make peripherals. If you are in gaming in any kind of capacity, their name should not be new to you. And if their name is new to you, well, I'm glad that we had him on to talk about his line, the line of products that they offer, because again, from a lot of personal experiences, they are some great products, and you should definitely check them out if you're looking to jump in. So, with that being said, we're going to switch over segments and head on over to Computer and Technology News. That's right, brought to you by Computer America. And this is a segment where we take everything and anything that has to do with computer and technology, and we say, hey, you should really pay attention. And I think the first one that we should really do, because I know we're running out of time, is about Apple. You guessed it, something called the HomePod, and they just announced it today. So here we go. Well, actually, they announced it yesterday, but here we go. Computer and Technology News. All right, and Computer Technology News brought to you by Computer America. So our first story, and hopefully we'll get to more than one, but Apple, that's right. They have a new device, and when I first saw it, very contrary to this article's title, I said, oh, wow, Apple's finally getting into the digital home assistant, about time. And yet we have this article here from Engadget, Mr. John Fingus, saying, don't compare Apple's HomePod to Amazon's Echo, even though that's exactly what I wanted to do. Also to Google's Home. But here we go. Saying that Apple is consciously avoiding direct competition with its obvious rivals. One would think. So, that's right. And the WWDC was actually yesterday, so that's where it was announced. But when Apple unveiled the HomePod at the WWDC, the Worldwide Developer Conference, it was tempting to draw immediate comparisons to the Amazon Echo and Google Home. Obviously, if you are watching the video portion, this would be no wonder why, but if you're just listening, it looks like a stubby Echo. Let's be honest, it looks like a stubby Echo. So, and of course, the author said he wouldn't blame you if you did. They're all smart speakers, of course, and there's a good chance that you might cross-shop them in the right circumstances. However, it's increasingly clear that a one-for-one comparison doesn't hold up, saying that if anything, Apple is consciously avoiding direct competition with Echo-like speakers. It's playing up its strong point, audio quality, okay, while downplaying the importance of its AI assistant. Not the way to go. But hey, it's kind of hard to give the multi-billion-dollar asset holding Apple financial advice, or at least product advice. But there you have it. Saying that the strategy certainly has its risks, but it may also help the HomePod stand out where it would otherwise drown in a sea of rivals. And a sea of rivals, I think, is a good way to put it, because Amazon Echo has licensed the API to anyone who wants to make a speaker and put a microphone and use the artificial intelligence. So there's going to be a lot more than what we see currently in the next couple of months, in the next couple of years. And Apple, you would think, would differentiate itself by being better at its own game. Instead, they're trying to redefine the game. There you have it. So most smart speakers you see today are really AI helpers first and foremost. And they're there to tell you about the weather, turn on lights, and guide you through recipes. And they can be extremely useful in that light. However, music playback is not an afterthought, but definitely lower on the ladder. So while you can obviously play tunes on an Echo or Home, you aren't going to buy one expecting more than passable audio quality. And that's something that we haven't really heard from anyone on the show who's given us a review of these products, where the audio quality has been more than passable, I'll admit. So I don't know if Apple really thought this one through, but they said the HomePod is the flip side of that coin, where it is, in fact, audio capable first and foremost, and then it has Siri as an afterthought. In fact, it pitched Siri as a musicologist that helps you discover new artists. Where, of course, smart home control, the weather, they're available, but not buying a HomePod primarily with those in mind. Obviously, Apple didn't want to even hint at support for third-party skills, so you shouldn't expect to handle more than a limited range of tasks. Apple, I don't like where you're going with this. So here you have it. Here's the problem, though, is the price. The price makes it roughly twice as expensive as the Echo. The Echo being the top of the line product from Amazon. So you're looking at $350 as opposed to $180, and nearly 3 times that of the Home. So $120 for the Google Home, again $350 for the Apple. Man, so that will rule it out if you're just looking for a low-cost voice assistant. But it looks much more favorable if you're pitting it against the wireless speakers like the Play 3. You're getting a high-quality speaker that for a little more cash offers some proper smarts. Why would you even look at a standard Echo if you're shopping in this price range and care about audio fidelity? But here's my problem with Apple and this whole idea. They obviously have a gap in the market that they need to jump into, and that's smart home, connected home, artificial intelligence, artificial assistant. And they kind of launched it. I mean, they were the first one out with Siri. Siri had such great promise, but the development of it compared to the others has been so lackluster. It's appalling for Apple to kind of drop Siri into what it is now, comparing it to others. So for them to bring out a speaker that has intelligence in it through Siri, you can only compare it to others on the market. And if your only selling point is it sounds better / it's not as smart, then you are just releasing a speaker. And I mean, Apple's Apple. Apple will always have their fanboys. But at the same time, I don't know if the demand for a speaker is as emerging or as exploding as you have the desire for intelligent electronic helpers. It's just not something that I think Apple really wanted to. I feel like that they're going to put this product out. It's going to sound great. It's going to have great internals. The hardware is going to be great. I have no doubt about that. But I feel like they're putting this out just so they can, and then eventually, 6 months down the road, a year down the road, they're going to turn it into a more competitive digital assistant. Because right now, artificial intelligence is hard. I really do feel like Apple has been slacking when it comes to this part of the market. And when they can finally get Siri right, finally get it out of beta at any rate, then they'll push it through a software update, through the cloud, and bam, Apple is once again sitting on top. If this is what their hardware looks like, great, but at the same time, their software sorely lacking in this department. So they're saying, and the article wraps up by saying that the big danger is simply that the opponents aren't all staying still. Obviously, if Amazon or Google just gets serious about sound quality in future models, you'd be more justified in making direct comparisons. And if that happens, Apple would need to do more to flaunt its speaker design chops. And that's my big point. Artificial intelligence is harder than good speakers. Speakers just cost money. Artificial intelligence is a craft, and that's going to take time. Apple, disappointed. So, everyone, we're just about out of time. Thank you so much for tuning in to Computer America. If you didn't catch most of the interview, we had a great interview with HyperX. Catch them over at computeramerica.com. And we'll be back with more tomorrow with Mike Cermak himself. See you then. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend, or have a great day.